Hey, what is up, guys? It's Zodius247, and I'm coming at you guys with a top 10 budget deck list for the January 2015 format. Keep in mind, these choices are my opinion. These are decks that I have personally tested or have played against enough to know that they are, whether or not they are good or viable choices either for this current format or just good choices in general. So before anyone starts complaining in the comment section that, oh, why isn't this deck list on there, or this deck should be on there, I'm sorry, guys, I probably haven't played your deck and I'm probably not going to. So with that out of the way, let's get started on the deck list. So at number 10, I have Six Samurai. Yes, Six Samurai. I was actually really hesitant to put this deck on here just because it's one of those decks that does require you to have the setup from the get-go, otherwise you're gonna have a bad time. But I mean, you have 6 search cards, and the deck can very easily make Naturia Beast as well as Naturia Barkion. And there's 2 ways you can play this deck. You can play this deck as an aggressive OTK deck with like Shien's Dojos and stuff, which I wouldn't recommend you do, but you can. There's the control build, which runs like 14 traps, and basically in that build you just go Shien, Naturia Beast, set 4. That's the build I would recommend you guys to play. But Six Samurais are just one of those decks where they kind of just fell off the planet, but I can actually see them being able to do something this upcoming format. They have great matchup against Qliphorts. They have a decent matchup against Shaddolls, believe it or not, just because Shien can negate fusion spell cards, and so can the Naturia Beast. The Neclots are going to be coming out, and they rely a lot on their spell cards. So when you get Shien out, you get Naturia Beast, you can just say no to all those shenanigans, and I mean, don't be surprised if they just scoop it up right there. Overall, the deck just seems like it has a pretty good matchups this format. Just give it a try, guys. Number 9, and this is another deck that I was really hesitant to put on here, but at number 9 I have Gravekeepers, just because Necro Valley still hurts a lot of decks. This deck doesn't, against the Neclots and the Qliphorts, this deck might have not so good matchups, but against every other deck, it's great. Shaddolls are Graveyard Reliant. Burning Abyss is Graveyard Reliant. Necro Valley just laughs at Satara Knights because they can't use their Altera effect, which is pretty much what gives them their speed. So Necro Valley is still a really powerful card in the game. This deck has great control, and I feel like the deck just has gotten so much support over the past few years, and so I mean they have their own Vanity's Emptiness, which does require Necro Valley to be on board, so it is kind of conditional. But it's still a card though, and you have Imperial Tombs, you have Bribes if your opponent wants to like MST or Necro Valley, that kind of thing. The deck just has a really good control over the game, has a great grind game, and overall it just isn't a bad choice. Like, I feel like this is one of those decks where, I mean, if you go Necro Valley set spot, you're not going to auto win, but I mean against a lot of the higher tier decks in those matches, you are gonna have to play you're gonna have to play this deck a bit more skillfully. But I feel like this is just one of those decks where if you get it in the hands of someone who knows what they're doing, they'll have a decent bit of success with it. Anyways, on to the next deck. So at number 8 I have Fire Fist. Fire Fist is one of my personal favorites. It's a deck that I love. I'm actually gonna profile a deck for you guys later for my build, but Fire Fist is just one of those decks that's really fucking consistent. They just search out for days. I've been in duels where I just do my shenanigans, and people complain. People start yawning because I take forever, but that's what you do. The deck has plenty of removal via Fire Fist Bear and then Gorilla to pop your back row. You still have cards like Cardinal, which is basically your Tiramisu and bounces things back into the deck. Tiger King says no to any annoying monster effects, and the deck can play one of 2 ways. You can play control, like a control grind based game where you just normal summon your dragon, you activate a Tenki or Tensu, you search out your Fire Formation trap cards, you set some back row, and you kind of just sit on 1 or 2 monsters and just beat them down. Or you can play very aggressive with the Spirit Horse Prince play, and summon a bunch of monsters and just attack for game. So overall, Fire Fist, like all around, deck's always just going to be good. I guess you could kind of put Fire Kings under this category too, because they're basically the same thing. Just one relies on cards like Horse Prince and Tiger King, and the other one relies on Garunix. But yeah, I guess for this spot you could put Fire Kings in there too. But anyways, moving on. Number 7, I have Black Wings. Alright, so the deck with Gale at 3 now, the deck is at full power, which is something we haven't seen in a while. And this deck is just all around really good. It's kind of a unique deck in the sense that you can play one of two ways. You can play a very aggressive OTK deck in which you summon Shura, you special summon multiple Boras, and just attack for game. Or you can play a control-based deck where you summon that one Shura, you search out your Kalutes, you set some back row, and your opponent doesn't even want to attack you because they fear Kalute, or they fear Lance, or they fear Black Sonic, and there's just so many mind games that you can play with your opponent. Like, the deck is just one of those decks where, I mean, if you have the setup, your opponent just isn't gonna want to attack you at all, and it's fine because while they're busy over there, like, you know, peeing their pants and thinking how they're gonna get around your monsters, you're just gonna keep gaining advantage and pretty much just attack them for game. And this deck this deck can spam out a lot, but it doesn't need to. That's the thing I really like about it. It's not hurt by Vanity's Emptiness at all, or Skill Drain. So if you're thinking, oh, you know, Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, it's not really going to do much. It's basically the same thing as a Skill Drain, and it doesn't do anything. And if for whatever reason it does cause them problems, you know, they could always Icarus attack it or whatever. When you're thinking of like just sending your back rows, your back rows are probably just going to get Icarus attacked. So Black Wings are just overall just a really good deck. Number 6, Cyber Dragons. Yes, Cyber Dragons. There's no need to clean your ears or like try to clean your monitor. Cyber Dragons, I feel like aren't a bad deck to play this format. I mean, the deck's very aggressive, has great matchup against Qliphorts and a few other decks, just because it's always been a really fast deck, very aggressive. Honest is at 2 now, so that's pretty much Cyber Dragon support right there. Because their LTKs were already pretty stupid with limited removal and 1 Honest, but now that you're gonna put a second Honest in there, it's just gonna make the deck that much better. Plus the matchup itself is just really unexpected. You know, whenever you go on Death Pro, I mean, you never really expect to get OTK'd by freaking an 8K machine monster. Possibly 16,000 during the damage step if they opened up that broke with limited removal. But Cyber Dragons are a deck that I feel like they can just kind of take on anything that they face. They're just one of those decks that doesn't really give a crap as long as they can summon out their big monster and attack you for lots of damage. I mean, you're not going to survive for more than a couple of turns, so yeah. And number 5, I have Evil Swarms. As much as I hate this deck, I have to put it on the list because Ophion is still a problematic card. Ophion just pretty much just craps on the new decks. Obviously, this Ophion just stomps on Shaddolls. It stomps on the Neclots that are coming out. It doesn't really hurt Qliphorts too much. I mean, they still have to get rid of this, but Qliphorts usually do main deck Skill Drain, and since Ophion only stops special summons, there's nothing stopping them really from tributing for Qliphort Disc and just bouncing Ophion back. But again, side decks are a thing, so it's very easy to side in against the Qliphort match. It's not that hard to side in against the Tower Knights or Burning Abyss matchups. And overall, the deck's just, it's very easy to use, it does its job pretty well. It's very efficient at summoning its one boss monster and just pretty much just protecting that thing, making it invincible. So overall, I feel like the deck is a pretty decent meta call at the moment. With the amount of space they have, like just like any other Ranked Force fan deck, you have plenty of room to main deck Floodgate cards like, you know, Macrocosmos, Thieffisher, Soul Drain if you're that desperate on Burning Abyss matchups and the Shaddol matchups, or you really want to wreck them that bad. Evil Swarms are a deck that can just like really shine this format with all the good matchups it has. Number 4, Dark Zombie decks. Now, Lavalval Chain actually has been going down in price quite a bit, which is kind of, well, it's not really that surprising because it's not a card that's being used as much as it was in previous formats. So with that being said, if you can afford Lavalval Chain, you can afford the rest of this deck. Zombies are a deck that, you know, they're very fast, they're very aggressive. If you're playing like Zombie Masters and shit, you have a pretty good grind game too. It's kind of flexible. You can put in a Lightsworn engine, and you know you can run JDs and that kind of thing, or you can do more of a Dark Arm build and run like Emergency Teleport and rallies, and you know you can make it like kind of like a Void Ogre Dark Arm spam build. And if you are playing that build, you know, congratulations, because Void Ogre just kind of just wrecks Qliphorts and Neclots, because if you open up the nuts and you drop 2 Void Ogres in one turn, and obviously bomb it in your hand because you don't want anything in your hand, so your Void Ogre just will be live. But I mean, that's basically like dropping 2 Xians, only they're bigger. And I mean, if your opponent has to bait out 2 negations, and they still had to get past the 3k ass that they have, so basically they're not gonna have a good time. So overall, I think like this deck can actually do some damage this format, just because of how, you know, how efficient it is at spamming out these big boss monsters and, you know, protecting them with like back row. Also, if you can afford like something like a Vanity's Emptiness, and you can combo it with a Void Ogre Dragon, I mean, you pretty much, that's overkill. You're not going to lose that game at all. But I feel like zombies are kind of a really underrated deck, and they're really powerful. Zombies are a really powerful and underrated deck, and you guys should definitely try them out. Number 3, Karakuris. This deck is stupid. The amount of field presence these guys have is stupid. The amount of cards, the amount of advantage they gain while they summon their big beefy boss monsters is stupid. How consistent this deck is stupid. How fast it is stupid. Overall, this deck is just stupid. But it's a very good deck. I'm not bashing on the deck. If I didn't like it, I wouldn't put it on the list. But it is just stupid how much advantage this deck gets. Like as I mentioned here, you have draws for days. You have so many draws for days with this deck. It's not even funny. And yeah, this deck is a lot faster than most of. This is probably one of the fastest decks I've ever seen. You know, out of any decks. I mean, if you want a deck that can like consistently OTK, this is your deck. This is the deck that's gonna spam out a big boss monster, at least one big boss monster every turn, maybe 2 to 3. This deck is just really, really good. And if you're worried about back row, you know, fucking you up, you just run triple Trapstun and triple Decree, and you will be fine. You are not dealing with that back row whatsoever. Just try this deck out, guys. It is very aggressive, very powerful, and definitely has a lot of good matchups. Also, this deck can make Naturia Beast, which, like I said, Naturia Beast is looking really good for this format just because of how much the meta relies on its spell cards. So if you get out like double Burrito with Naturia Beast and a Stardust, you're gonna win that game. I mean, obviously you have to go first. But if you're going first and you open up that hand, you already opened up super broke. You're winning that game. It's not even a question. So number 2, Heroes. Alright, I had to put this deck on here because, you know, they are getting the structure deck out, and with the structure deck, they are getting three really powerful cards. They're getting Dark Law, which is the card that everyone's been, you know, just waiting for like the past few months or so. Which Dark Law is pretty broke because he's a one-sided macro who banishes cards from your opponent's hand when they search something. And then, you know, you got your Shadow Mist, which is basically your Shadow's replacement that doesn't miss timing on its searching, which is kind of like, what the fuck. And then, you know, Mass Change II is really just a poorly designed card because you can Mass Change monsters that aren't heroes. So Shaddoll's can abuse that, and, you know, Mermails can abuse that too, going to Acid. Like I said, it's just a poorly designed card, but it's all supposed to be meant to be hero support. Like, heroes are looking really strong. As soon as we get these new support cards, Bubble Beatdown is definitely going to be a thing again. So I had to put them on the list here, just in the structure deck. That leaves us to my number 1 choice, which is TG Stun. I had to put TG Stun on here because, one, Reborn Tengu is at 3. Number 2, this deck isn't hurt, really, is not hurt by really too many things. It doesn't care about skill drain. It doesn't really care about vanities. This deck has an amazing grind game. It can run a crap ton of floodgates. You still have cards like Horn of the Phantom Beast, which just net you so much advantage. You still have all your floaters. Like I said, Reborn Tengu's at 3, so that's TG stun support right there. This deck can very, very easily make Naturia Barkion, and Goyle's at 2 now. So, which is another card that this deck can very, very easily go into. And overall, like, TG Stun just looks really, really strong this format because, I mean, okay, Skill Drain still at 3. You still have your own Creature Swap. You still have your own Pot of Avarice. The deck just, there's nothing bad about this. Like, no reason to bash on the deck at all. The deck is very, very solid right now, and that is why I put it at my number 1 spot. So, in the comments below, tell me what you guys thought about this top 10 list. Show your support by thumbsing up the video, subscribe to my channel. This is Exodius247 signing out.